Okay. Hey, everybody. This is Shell Brodnax. We're having a little bit of technical difficulty here. So I'm trying to share my screen. It's not showing quite up the right way that we're used to. So let's help test the technology here. If everybody that is on, if you can type in that chat box that you can hear me, and number 2, that you can see me, that would be fantastic. But I want to welcome everybody. We're going to do the best that we can to get through this little bitty glitch that we've never had before. So my name is Shell Brodnax. I'm the CEO of RESA. I love to do these newbie webinars to answer all of your questions. And I'm super excited today because I have the very talented and beautiful Jacquelin Franklin.
Hi,
Thank you
everybody.
for joining me.
Good afternoon, everyone, or wherever you are right now.
Wherever we are. Yeah, please put in the box where you're from and how long have you been in business. If you're just getting started, that is absolutely perfect. Just go ahead and put that in the chat box, and we'll do a little bit of housekeeping right now. Jacquelin, you are, what state are you located? New Jersey?
I'm in New York, but I reside in New Jersey, but I'm based out of New York for my business.
And Jacquelin has joined the board of directors. She was elected, or she was appointed by the board of directors this last year. So she's serving for this next year and the year after that, and likely the year after that. And if we can keep her on for as many years after that, do that too.
You're planning out my whole future for me. I love it.
I am going to completely hijack you. So it's like I told you a couple months back, I said, hey, I'm going to tell you something. When we find somebody who's got really good ideas, I'm going to put you to work. So
I know, you was like, I have plans for you. You really meant it.
One of the things in leadership is you want to surround yourself with a lot of smart people. So Absolutely. That's what we have done here. So what we're going to do is we took questions when you all signed up for this. We have all those questions loaded into a little PowerPoint, and we're just going to read them. We're going to kind of ping and pong off of each other. I might give an answer. Jacquelin's going to give an answer. Sometimes it always won't agree, and that is okay because they come from different perspectives. And if we have like a different opinion on something, maybe pricing or whatever it be, I'll explain why I have mine. She'll explain why it's hers, and then whatever applies to you, take it. That would be awesome. Absolutely. Are you ready to go?
Ready to go.
Okay, so number 1, how do you approach real estate agents successfully? So this is kind of a loaded question, and I'm probably going to give a different answer than most people are expecting. So I would think that from this, you're probably wanting to know, do you approach them at lunch? Do you ask them to take them to lunch, take them to dinner, stage for free, all these different methods in order to communicate. But my biggest thing when I see this is that you want to do it with confidence. That is the thing. It doesn't matter if you're new, if you've been in the industry for a year, a week, 5 years, everything it is that you do, if you do it with confidence, it's going to really cement those deals. And I think that is the number one thing that a lot of stagers lack. So I know with my experience in the industry, is my 19th year in the industry. And in all these years, one thing that I do know for sure is that you can have 2 stagers bid the same job. One can bid it $3,000 more than the other one. And that $3,000 higher bid is going to get the job. And a lot of the times it's just because the confidence, it's more money. But just ask yourself too, all of us want a deal. But I'll give you an example. This weekend, this last couple months, we've been getting bids for cement and to put cement into a new shop we just built. And even with my husband, I was shocked at this because he did not choose the low price leader. And I was like, very good, Norton. I appreciate that.
So for the lowest one.
He didn't, we didn't get the highest one. The highest one came in quite a bit higher than everybody else. But this guy was like serious commercial. If you were going to have a mechanic shop in this particular shop, you might need everything it was that he was bringing to the table. He put extra rebar in. He made sure that he put cement in that nobody's going to ever have to call him back to do, which is great, but was just a little bit too much for our little small farm. So we didn't get the low price leader either. But the guy that came in at the middle was like, I think we can work with this. So he chose that. So I think it's all about, I think personally, it's about your confidence. What do you think about this question?
I would agree, because if you don't present image of believing in yourself, well, then why would the real estate broker or the real estate brokerage firm, if you're trying to establish a relationship with the firm, believe that you can successfully stage and therefore help them to sell and move their properties? So the confidence definitely is a major component. And there are so many resources that you can seek out in order for you to help feel you're speaking the right jargon, you're able to touch points on the right information that will help to sell what you're trying to offer to help you reinforce that confidence that you need. So I completely agree, Shell. Confidence is key.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the other thing is this old cowboy gave me the great advice years ago. And because I was always, I didn't start riding horses until my almost mid 40s, which means I was terrified of everything because you don't bounce well at that age. And, you know, when people tell you all the crazy, horrible things that can happen on horseback, I believe them. So it was pretty paralyzing. So I just said to him, you know, I said, when can I get better? When is my anxiety going to go away? And he looked up at me and he goes, I've watched you ride. He goes, you are not a bad rider. Right. You lack confidence. And the only thing that is ever going to fix that is more time in the saddle. Right. So just like with anything, the more you do it, the better off you're going to be.
The better you get. Practice makes perfect.
Absolutely. So as a new stager, how do you go about finding out what other stagers are charging so that you know what range to be within? This is a great question, and we're going to peel this apart because it has so many layers into this. So number one, you can ask. A lot of stagers will tell you, especially if you approach it by saying, look, I'm new. I could use some sisterhood. Will you be my shero today and let me know what kind of ranges that I can be in? Because I don't want to be a underbidder. I don't want to devalue the industry as a whole. If you take that approach, yeah, you're more likely to get a favorable response. The other thing is that we actually just did a survey, a state of the industry survey, where we do ask about pricing. And so we are gathering all that information. We really hope to have, we better have the report done by March 18th. That's what our big meeting is that we've advertised with everybody. So we're trying to knock some things out, and we will have the results of that report available. We'll talk about that on the meeting. And if people took the report, they're going to get a copy of that report. If you didn't take the survey and answer all the questions, then you can pay to get the report. But what do you think about this?
I think ultimately you can definitely ask around, and you will find the support in wanting to make sure there's a range. There tends to be more of a defined range when you talk about interior design and construction and so forth. But with staging is a little bit more vague, but I completely do agree. We don't want to end up devaluing what we're bringing to the table offering this service. So people will be very inclined to share that information with you just to make sure that we're all fairly bidding our projects, which means that we all end up getting a fair wage for the work that we're doing.
Yep, absolutely. What else was I going to say about this? Here's the other thing. I'm going to make pricing. People say, you know, what do we charge? What do we charge? Well, first of all, if you're asking what to charge or how to charge, I really strongly suggest you get training. You need to get some education. But here's a simple formula. Your cost plus whatever you need to make a profit. Mm-hmm. So you need to make sure that it's worth it for you to get out of bed in the morning. And I'm going to tell you a quick story about confidence. So when I was in California, and I'm CEO of RESA, which means I don't have time to have a staging business because running a legitimate trade association is more than a full-time job. So all my efforts were into this. However, I did have a website up because in my particular area, we got lots of phone calls through RESA asking for stagers in the area, and even just to do some occupied consults. And there was legitimately, I was the only person within like 90 minutes of this particular area. So I had one gal call me, and it was really kind of weird because she stalked me a little bit. And she says, no, I need you to come and, you know, can you give me a consultation? And I asked where she was, and she was an hour from me. And I said, you know, well, let me refer you to somebody else. This is not the primary focus of what I do, but I'll connect you with somebody great. No, I want you. I've Googled you, and legit, she did. She had a little book, like all these printed things, every newspaper article, blog article, quote.
She had a whole dossier on you.
A total dossier on me. And she's like, oh, no. And I just didn't want to do the job. So I'm like, Okay, well, my walk and talk consultation is $600, and I will come out for up to 2 hours, and I'll tell you everything that you need to do in order to stage your home on your own, because I'm not going to stage it. Nothing good can happen if that happens. And she's like, she said, when can you be here and do you take cash? I sold it, and I wasn't trying to sell it, but I sold it. Like I always tell people, when you talk about pricing, talk about pricing like the person at the McDonald's drive-thru says it's $2.10 for your sausage McMuffin and small coffee. They expect to get it. They say it with confidence. They don't expect you're going to haggle with them. They just say it. And when I said it, I was really hoping it would be a deterrent, because nobody charges $600 for a walk and talk consultation in the Central Valley, California. It just doesn't happen. And legit, she did it. And it was a good experience. And her house turned out lovely, by the way. But so yeah, there's lots of different ways to come up with the pricing, but for sure, reach out, especially if you have a RESA chapter in your area. A lot of people are happy to help you with that.
Yeah, you'll be surprised how much people are willing to share information, because it ultimately helps all of us collectively to be able to determine the value we're bringing to this whole collaboration with real estate brokers and homeowners, and allows for us to scale the industry up. So we always want to be supportive of one another, and you'll find a lot of people will be open to sharing that kind of information with you, primarily for that purpose, but also as camaraderie as we all, work in this great industry, and we start to continue to see it grow.
It does make you feel good when you help others.
It does. It feels really good when you help others. I mean, and it does come back to you in multiple ways that are very positive. One of them also being able to set what is the standard for what we all get paid for doing this great work.
Yep, absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. So as a new stager with zero experience, is it best to work for a company initially in order to gain more experience, or immediately start your own company? So it's a loaded question too. So we'll peel the layers of this one apart. In short, it's just really dependent on what your goals are, where you are. So it's really hard to kind of answer that, but here's some things. So while a lot of people want to be helpful and they want the camaraderie and they're very more than willing to help others, having you go to work for them sometimes can be a little bit of an issue for them, especially if they know you have desires to build your own company, because from what their perspective is going to be is, why would I train my future competition? Right. They're going to know everything about my company, my fees, how I do everything from cradle to grave,
methodologies, like your client book,
contracts, everything. So you can always apply, but I think you should be honest with people. I don't ever recommend being dishonest and say you really don't want to. If you really do want to, allow them, that's their choice to be able to make. So don't take them their privilege away of being able to make that choice for their own business. But you can ask, but if you want to just start on your own, that's absolutely doable. It's something that you can completely do. But a lot of it just has to do with really, what do you want to do with your career and your life and your time frame, and what are your goals?
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to determine what type of staging business you want to have. Do you want it to be more consultation based? Do you want to do occupied staging? Do you want to maybe work with more vacant staging? Do you want to work solely with real estate brokers? There are many different directions you can go in, which if you're just starting out, can seem very off-putting and intimidating, but don't be intimidated. That's why we have associations like RESA to help guide you and give you the tools that you need and connect you with these great training professionals to help you gain the training, which will build your confidence, as Shell has mentioned multiple times, because it is that important to your success to be confident in yourself first and foremost. And then everything else you'll see will come together and you'll be able to succeed and thrive. So that's something you should really pay attention to. What does your ideal client look like? What does your ideal staging situation look like? And ultimately, what type of staging do you want to do? And then from there, you could start really mapping out and building out what your business will be.
Absolutely. Love it. All right. Would love any advice as a newbie, particularly info on hiring an assistant, insurance for assistants, and legal contracts. Okay. So if you are a RESA member, and I know you all are, but if you're not,
at the same time. And if you're not,
You're
yeah.
not, join tonight, because if you're a RESA member, there's a program called RESA Sure. It is offered through Villanova Insurance Brokers. And they're all about risk management, contracts, you name it. So if you go through them and they write your policy for you, then you have access to something called RESA Sure. So for a little additional fee, you have access to an attorney. His name is Joe Denneler. He's fantastic. Love him, oodles and oodles. And he will either review your contract if you have one, or write a contract for you if you don't have one. So it's a great way to be able to get started is with Villanova Insurance, because they are all about risk management. And with that being said, they will get you the right insurance. So I think there might be another slide on insurance, but I'll just say it here since we're on it. People have a lot of misunderstandings about insurance because they say, well, what company do you go to? Someone says, I do Hanover. Another one says Hartford. Another one says Travelers. Well, here's the thing. When you work with Villanova, yes, to all. They can book you in many different places. They're the broker, which means they're going to seek out the best policy for your particular business. Now, because RESA has been with this company for so long, one of the main reasons why the industry even has insurance now is because of this program. So Judy Phobes is over at Villanova. She's written more policies than any other insurance broker on the planet because she's worked with us for well over a decade. So if you are a small one-person operation, she'll have a policy for you. If you're a larger operation where you have a 14,000 square foot warehouse, moving trucks, 4 employees, and whatever else you've got going on, inventory, she can write that as well. One other thing I will say to everybody just starting out, and please remember this once you get your insurance, because you're new and you're just starting out, every year when they send you a piece of paper to renew, you need to reassess your risk management. Here is why. You're going to start building inventory. So in the beginning, you might be insured for $10,000 worth of inventory. Right. And then the second year, you might have $25,000 worth of inventory. And let's say you did not update this with your insurance provider. So you're only insured for 10. True story. Fire breaks out, burns down the city, the town. All your stuff is in a storage unit, which has now got ridiculous amounts of smoke damage that is never going to come clean, or it gets burnt altogether and it's a total loss. Either way, you're only insured for 10K, but you've got 25,000. So now this error of not updating your insurance will likely put you out of business if you can't absorb that type of a loss. So it's really important. I know nobody likes for their insurance rates to go up a lot. It's the cost of doing business though, because if you don't and you get wiped out by a tragedy, that it could just completely level everything that you're doing. Anything else on this one?
It's also, the rates are very competitive through RESA when you compare it to other alternatives. So it is what you said, cost of doing business. But if you look at it not from a short-term perspective, not from a micro perspective, but a macro perspective, then you ultimately are saving for your business and ensuring that you will be much more profitable over the long term.
Yeah. The other thing that I worry about with people when they don't go through, and you're more than welcome, this is just the partner that we work with, but a lot of times what'll happen, we hear these stories. I went with this one insurance broker and he doesn't know the industry. He or she doesn't know the industry. Yeah. And it's like, all right, so therefore you may not be properly insured because they don't understand the ins and outs. And when you are just starting out, you don't know the ins and outs. You can't possibly plan for every scenario that you might run into. And so let me tell a quick story about this too. There's also an ancillary policy that you can get. So everybody needs to have your general liability. Your general liability, while it will cover your inventory if there's a loss, fire, theft, something along those lines, it will cover it. But why should it? If that inventory is out of your care, custody, and control, meaning if it's in your warehouse, great that it's covered. If it's in somebody's home because you've staged it, it can be covered. But there's no reason, in my opinion, that you should have to take the hit on your policy because your property is not under your care, control, and custody. So if somebody comes up to the staged property at 3 a.m. with a U-Haul truck and empties it out and splits with, $25,000 of your inventory, your contract might tell your homeowner, the seller, that they are responsible for that. But now they're going to say, I didn't read that part, or I missed that part. Or they'll say, my homeowner's insurance will cover it. And then you're going to say, really? Okay, so when you have your contract and you write this in that they're responsible for it, and they'll say, oh, I don't want to sign that, but my homeowner's insurance will cover it. Then you would simply say, then add me to your rider, because if you get that rider showing full replacement value of how much inventory that you gave them, then you're covered. Then there's no problem. That homeowner's policy is going to cover it. But most homeowners and most stagers do not even realize that after 30 days, the homeowner's insurance is not likely to cover the contents, the inside of the property, if it's left vacant. So if it's on the market vacant, no one's living in it, that could be a big problem. And so again, you shouldn't have to take the loss on your policy, because you will likely get your rates raised or be dropped. And then it's difficult to find a new provider at that point. So this new other policy called staging risk management, I worked with a great guy a couple years ago, and this is still in effect. This is something I've wanted for 19 years in this industry. I've been trying to get it done, and we finally got it done 2 years ago. And this is an ancillary policy that you can obtain on your own. It's anywhere between $150 to $300. The rates are up to 10, up to 20, and up to $30,000 worth of inventory. So if you have $25,000 of inventory, you're going to get the highest level. And so it's $300 for that for the first 60 days. That way, if the U-Haul truck pulls up or there's a fire and all of your inventory is destroyed, you are going to get paid full replacement value. And that way the homeowner doesn't have to take the hit and you don't have to take the hit.
Right.
So it's really a great policy to be able to have. This is something I definitely, you can always do something like offer it, that you offer it and you just up the price by 150, 250, or 300, or you make it something that's in addition to, and the homeowner can pay for it. So that's another way to be able to protect yourself. So what is the best way to start a home staging business? This is a loaded question. I am just going to say that you definitely need education. The most successful people in the industry are people that tend to come from a background that is more sales, legal, PR, marketing. When you have that skill set, staging is very right brain, left brain. So it's some people have both sets where you have the creative, but a lot of people get into it because they love the creative aspect of it. And they want to be able to do the staging and make everything pretty. But if you can't close a sale, you won't get to do that part. So definitely get education and get a business partner if you don't have both sides of your brain. Jacqueline, what do you think about this?
Yeah, definitely. Education is key. You can never have too much knowledge. And it's a constant thing. Like even all of us that have been in the industry for a longer period of time, I'm still learning something new every day. So and seeking out knowledge from other people who are more experienced than myself, who have a different type of experience than I do. But definitely the training as a starting point, it will be super, super helpful because they map out a lot of the questions you probably have right now and help you get the tools to learn how to navigate them. And then in addition to that, with the part about being left brain, right brain, that is spot on. Because if you can ultimately do the creative side, but you cannot manage the business side, you will not be successful in your pursuit in this industry or very much, any other creative industry where there's a business component. So a partner, if that is something you lack, definitely is key. But if you really are a single person that wants to start a business on your own, you've been thinking about it for a number of years, you're transitioning from a different career, and now you finally feel like, yes, I can do this. And after COVID and everything else, you're ready to make a change, then the training will definitely be a huge asset for you. And ultimately, being a part of an association like RESA gives you the support that you might be seeking because it is a growing business, it is a growing industry. So having people like the other members of RESA and the leadership in RESA and in other industries like ours will ultimately allow you to have the tools you need to be extremely successful in your pursuit of starting your business and having a thriving, profitable business over the long term.
Absolutely. Could not agree more. So what is the best way to find staging jobs as an assistant to gain some experience?
That's
You
like
just,
the question before.
it was almost the same. Unless I think it was almost the same. I think the other one was, should you work first or should you look to hook up with somebody else? Here's the thing. You just have to find, are there stagers in your area? And are they wanting assistance? And is that something that they're wanting to embark on by bringing somebody in? So if you're just wanting to be an assistant, you might have a better chance in getting that done versus if you're wanting to start your own business. So
Right.
we kind of covered that earlier with a slightly different form of the question.
Slightly different. Not that much.
Not that much. Do you take payment at settlement for services? And how do you protect yourself if the home never settles? And do you have a written contract? So here's some things that we are going to be very firm about. You should not step one toe in somebody's home if you do not have insurance. And obviously, if you're just going to do a bid or something along those lines, a consultation, you definitely don't have to do a contract for that. But if you're stepping in someone's house and you're going to be moving furniture around, you've got to have a written contract. If you don't use a contract, you are screaming that you are green and that you don't know what you're doing.
And not just that, you're opening yourself up to so many potential problems. You
so
have to put yourself in the contract gives you that protection.
Absolutely. Here's another true story. Picture this. Big bay windows. Stagers move an occupied home around. Accidentally pushes a piano through the plate glass window. It's happened. I know the people. You have to have a contract. You have to have insurance for that. So those are two things that you definitely want to do to be able to protect yourself. Now, as far as taking payment out of escrow, this is always a personal choice. I personally would never recommend that you do it unless you use a service like Zoom Casa. So Zoom Casa is a great vendor that we partnered with about 2 years ago, and they will do exactly that. They're called a concierge service. So what that means is that agents and homeowners will contact them and say, I need a floor guy, I need a countertop person, I need a stager, and I need a real estate agent. And so they have all of those professions as part of their team, as part of, people that they contract with. And you, as well as a stager, you can sign up with them to be one of those team members. But then if you have a client that you want to take payment out of escrow, you would connect them with Zoom Casa. And of course, they're going to put a fee onto it because Zoom Casa is taking the risk, but they will pay you, the stager, before you're staging. You're going to use your contract for it. You're going to get paid up front. They will take the money out of escrow. So they're the ones assuming the risk, not you. So there's ways that you can do it, but I would never, ever do it without somebody like Zoom.
And the proper parties to manage it for you.
Yeah, that's just crazy talk right there. Because number one, they're going to have all your inventory in the house. And then if they don't want to pay the bill, you've still got to get your inventory out. So you could actually lose twice, and it's going to end up having to go to court to try to recover anything. So definitely always have a written contract, insurance, and avoid escrow payments unless you use a professional service.
Absolutely.
What is the best time to destage after closing? So no, it is not after closing, because after closing, all the contents in that property is now the property of the new owner. Right. So you want to
have a contract with the new owner.
You don't have the contract with the new owner. Exactly. So what you're going to do is you want to destage after all the contingencies have been removed. A lot of people will destage on the day of signing or the day before signing. But you want to push it out as far as you can, just in case something falls through escrow.
Right.
What are all the benefits of joining RESA if there's not a chapter in your area? Wow, this is a loaded question. I could probably talk about this for hours. Number one, if there's not a chapter in your area, look at starting one. Contact Vanessa at resahq.org. That's her email, or call her on the phone, and she can talk to you about starting a chapter. However, there are lots of benefits to RESA. Number one, you've got professional credibility. Real estate agents understand what it means to belong to their trade association. Most all real estate agents belong to their local association of realtors. That's how they get access to the MLS. So they understand these types of relationships. So number one, it brings more credibility to you. Number two, you're just going to get a lot of education. We have lots of free education, webinars such as this, other professional development webinars that are only available to RESA members. You get discounts on going to RESACon, our annual convention. Anytime if we have an offer for somebody, there's always going to be a RESA pricing and RESA member pricing and then non-member pricing. So you're always going to take benefit of that. And plus the camaraderie. Our social media groups are very active. So there's lots of resources to be able to pose questions, get to know people, and just learn to be able to grow. Jacqueline, what would your assessment be for this question since you are new with the board of directors?
Well, my assessment for this question is that if you're feeling like you're an island among yourself, where you don't feel like you kind of can make heads or tails, and you're just thinking about what might feel like the right thing to do to get started, this will help you remove that uncertainty from your process of establishing your business. Training is really key. Some people aren't really as comfortable in an academic setting, but the training that is offered really tries to make it as user-friendly as possible. A lot of it is available online. So if you cannot actually attend a physical location, you could do it online at your own pace. There are various different price points for the training, depending on how much you want to invest into something like that to get started. And then ultimately, the resources that RESA offers are unparalleled with any other association. We really are invested in making sure everybody who's a part of our association succeeds and thrives. And then as you do that, give you opportunities to not just be a member of the industry, but if you have true leadership qualities, you have advantages to do that too, which also helps you build your credibility, helps you be able to walk into that meeting with a real estate broker or walking to that meeting with a homeowner, with all of that standing behind you and all of us standing behind you with that information, that knowledge, all those resources, so that you really feel confident in what you can do. And you really do have a very strong chance to be successful in this industry, because that is real and that is possible for you.
Yeah, absolutely. RESA does have many discounts. I personally do not believe that joining a trade association just for the discounts is, it's not like where my mindset would go. They're great to be able to have. So we do have lots of them. One of the biggest reasons to join, I think, especially if you're buying inventory, is our wholesale buying group.
Yeah.
So that's included in your RESA membership. So to get that discount, that's worth it to join, because I know people have placed one order, saved $2,800, membership starting at $190, kind of a no-brainer for that one. So
the resources too, the insurance, there's just so much that you can take advantage of that ultimately is not going to be a deterrent. It's going to only serve you well in what you're trying to do with your business.
yeah, absolutely. Are there any particular insurance companies you'd recommend for liability and workers' comp? So again, we work with a broker. So you're going to contact Villanova Insurance Partners. They're on the Stager Resources page of RESA. And so if you go there, you can look them up and reach out to Judy Phobes. They will be able to handle all of your needs. What's the best course for learning the business side of staging? So this is an interesting question. So I'm going to just preface this by saying it really wouldn't be ethical for me to be able to choose which course is best. So this is what I can tell you. RESA accredits home staging education, core training. Core training is what we consider is what you need in order to start your business. So staging studio, home staging resource, CSP, all of these are accredited programs. And what that means is that we actually are reviewing their course materials. We ensure that they hit all 62 topic levels that we have set standards for that must be taught when you're teaching somebody about a staging business. Pretty soon they're going to be teaching some standard universal content. So new stagers can all be taught certain things the same way. Everybody's got different opinions on certain things in the industry, but we're going to standardize some of that information for the training providers. When we accredit them, it's also a very lengthy application. So we ensure that they have a very specific and non-ambiguous refund policy. What are their policies? What are their procedures? How often do they review their student feedback? Do they meet with owners of the company? If they have partners, how often do they meet? How often do they go over those critiques? What changes do they make? So we have an entire process that we put them through in order to receive our accreditation. So what we recommend that you do is go to the RESA website, hover over education. You're going to get a drop down. The first drop down is education. Click on that tab. The first part of the website is the accredited training providers, which means they've gone through our process. The ones underneath that are our affiliate training providers. I recommend that you call everybody, review all their information on our website, follow through to their websites, cross off the list that doesn't apply to you, something that doesn't strike your fancy, cross it off the list. The ones that are left over, I recommend that you call them. And if you use that procedure, you will likely find the program that is going to best suit your needs. What do you think about this question, Jacquelin?
Yeah, it's a extensively rigorous vetting process, because many people who are in the headquarter office and those of us on the board, we are in this industry, we've done this work. So that goes into considering who's actually providing the best training programs. And therefore the vetting process is very extensive. So you will receive quality education that will actually be applicable to real life situations that will help you succeed in running your business. And Felicia has kindly been adding the links to the chat. So if you want to go research it, just copy down the link or bookmark it on your browser. So that way you can research it later. But it definitely will be a worthwhile investment. And like I said, they are available at different price points. Everybody has a different approach to learning. After you do your research and go through your vetting process, I'm very confident you will find something that really fits the way that you need to learn and for the investment that you would like to make.
Yeah, absolutely. And plus, think about too, when you were interviewing these programs, how do you learn? Because that's a great point, Jacquelin. Or do you learn better online? Do you learn better in person? And here's some way that you kind of think about this. If your home environment is conducive to online learning, great. That might be a great fit. However, if your household is, Mom, she's looking at me, Mom, he kicked me, he pulled my hair, where's my roller skates, the dog peed on the floor, when's dinner? You might just want to get away for about a 3-day course.
Take a class.
Just saying. So really think about your learner experience and what it's going to be like. Because I know I've raised 8 kids over my lifetime, and yeah, all those examples straight from my house, all of them. So it really want to look and see, is your home life conducive to online learning? Do you have the time to be able to dedicate to it? I know with me, even work, sometimes you get a little ADD, you're kind of all over the place. So you really want to make sure that you can hone in on something online. And sometimes going in person is great. And right now with COVID, it's you just have to check with all the different providers and see what they're doing as far as their in-person classes. So here are some staging, the RESA accredited staging providers: HSR, CSP Staging Studio, and Expert Psychological Staging. That's with Christy Barnett. And then the ones at the bottom, these are the affiliate staging providers. Now, this doesn't mean that the affiliates aren't just as good. They might be, they just have not gone through our program. So I'm going to leave it at that. So it's up to you to choose which one's going to work for you. Also wanted to point out just some of our sponsors. And now let's open it up for questions. All right, if you have questions, go ahead and post them in the chat box. And I'll look here and see if we've had any yet. Judy is wonderful, Deanna. Yes, she's wonderful. We love her. Marcia's reached out to other stagers to help them on site with projects where they needed some extra hands. Didn't get exposed to their business stuff, but got experience for on-site staging. That's a good way to word that, Marcia.
Yeah.
When renting furniture items for staging, do you recommend the client sign the contract, or should my company be responsible for the items? Oh, Allison, if you sign the contract on your own with Court Furniture, I'm going to personally fly where you are and take your pen away. So you don't want to do that. Here's why. You're responsible. You're responsible for every tear, damage, you name it. And if you take they call their damage waiver, all that means is, like, if there's a little cigarette burn that might be covered, a little bit of dirt might be covered. It doesn't cover theft. It doesn't cover fire, flood, anything along those particular lines. However, the staging risk management policy will actually work for a rental company. So if you don't own your own inventory and you want to get the SRM policy, or your clients want that, that will cover the court inventory if something like that was to happen. But you're absolutely responsible for it if you sign it. So when they renew, if it's supposed to be renewing and they don't pay you, you're going to get stuck with that bill. So if you have $100,000 in the bank to be able to carry you, or 20,000 in the bank, and that can carry you. You might be able to afford that if they flake on the payment to you, but why should you? So I strongly recommend that you always put a rental contract in the owner's name and have them sign it. That way they are responsible. They'll also take a little bit more care with it if they know that they're responsible.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah. Can you imagine? That would be scary. Now, I'm going to say, I do know some people that have done that, and they take, with rental companies, what they do is the shorter your rental term, the higher your monthly payment. The longer you stretch out that rental, the lower the monthly payment's going to be. So I do know stagers that have gone and put it in their name, did it for 12 months, and with that, they are able to move it from place to place. So a few of them have done that, but boy, if you're just starting out, I would go the other route for sure. Absolute. So Deanna's got a potential client that asked if the staging can stay in place through escrow or just until under contract. Okay, so under contract and through escrow are this far apart. So we recommend always that you get it all the way up as close as you can get to when they close. So when it actually closes. But once it closes, again, the new owner owns everything. So a day or two before, at the very least, when contingencies are removed. All right, post any other questions. We've got a good 15 minutes. We're more than happy to stay on. Question for Jacquelin. How did you start with renting furniture or buying your own inventory?
My own inventory, because I don't really like a lot of the rental furniture. I wanted to be able to stage the properties in a different way, but not everybody has that capacity. So it is a great option. You just have to lean more heavily into getting your own decor, getting artwork, because you want to try and your intention is to sell the property so it moves fast, and being able to create that impact. You don't want it to have like that cookie cutter look. You want it to stand out against the other properties in the area. So for me personally, and I do design as well, so I have connections with people in the design world and vendors, so I was able to actually do that. But if you're going to do a rental approach, then I would definitely suggest investing in some really great art, really great decor pieces, so that way you can personalize it and make it feel less like it is a cookie cutter kind of setup. And you can work with local artisans for that. You can work with artists if you have like a school or a college in your area where there are young students that are in school for art history or what have you, or just you'll be really surprised how easy it is to find talented people who want to get their work out there and will collaborate with you.
Absolutely. So Felicia's posted a poll up here. So let's go ahead and take this really quick. Go ahead and answer this question up here. We'll go to the next question. Is it difficult to partner with Zoom Casa if you're a newbie, or do they tend to refer all work with more established stager? This is a great resource, but creates more competition among stagers, right? No. Is the realtor can refer a stager themselves, and in that case, the requirement's less strict. So should not be difficult to work with Zoom Casa. They're going to verify that you are a real stager, that you're not a hobbyist, that you have a contract. They're going to want to see your contract. They need to vet you, and they do a round robin approach. So not all stagers are using this. Not a lot of stagers have the need to be able to have to sell it out of escrow or take payment out of escrow. So I don't think it causes more competition, but they will do a round robin approach. So I would call them, talk with them directly, see what kind of vibe that you get with them. I particularly love the program. I think it's great, and it's something that I would always offer. If somebody asked about it, I would definitely offer it if I was staging homes. Any tips for anyone transitioning from interior design to staging?
If you're I guess I'll take that one.
Yeah.
If you're transferring from interior design to staging, for this person, are you dissolving your interior design business and you'll be solely staging properties going forward, or are you just adding it as another arm of business?
Let's see, this one was, every time I see a chat box, it moves.
Submitted via email. Okay, so ultimately, if you're transitioning from interior design to staging, one of the things that will make your life so much easier is understanding that you are going to have to approach it a little bit differently. When you're working with interior design clients, you're really trying to create a space for the specific client, and you're factoring in the function, you're factoring in the light, the way that they'll feel in the space, and so forth. And that same kind of, but that will actually serve you well in staging, because staging is very psychological. People want to, you need to make people feel a certain way when they walk into the room, and be able to highlight the key elements of the property that really makes it sing, so they can envision themselves living in the space and ultimately purchasing it. If you're transitioning, your contracts will be kind of similar, but ultimately you'll be able to have more freedom in regards to how you stage the property, because it won't be as determined by the client's individual tastes and needs. It's more, you're led more by what is the demographic that you're trying to attract for the buyers for the property, the property itself, and ultimately what other deliverables is being asked for, and you're going to include in your contract. The biggest part that you're going to have, if you don't already have a relationship where maybe you do custom furniture, or you have a store, if you're an interior designer and you have a store and you sell furniture, then building up your inventory. But you should already have that relationship with warehousing to receive your orders before you deliver them to your clients, and so forth. So it should be relatively easy for you to transition from interior design to staging, but those are some of the preliminary tips or like points that I think you should consider when you're making that transition. And I wish the person was actually on, so I could get a better feel for their setup to give much more direct and like precise advice.
And the clients are so different.
They're so
because it is night and day difference. And so one thing that we do know is that a lot of stagers who dip their toe in the design aspect or decorating aspect, they're like, whoa, these people have opinions. Yes, they do. They have opinions, and they're going to tell you what they want, what they don't like. Most of the time it's going to be, I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like that.
Yeah.
So you have, it's just a whole different animal, when in reality, in staging, of course, there's going to be times where somebody's going to get back to you and say, I really don't like that sofa setup, or I don't like that living room. And that's okay. It doesn't matter if they like it or not. It's what's best for the home. So you can effectively explain that to them. But you know, if somebody wants purple and gold in their master suite, you need to give it to them.
In design, but with staging, you could say, well, those types of colors are off-putting to potential buyers, therefore we should go in this direction. So you have a lot more freedom and a lot more creative license over what you create as an interior designer. And in addition, the timelines for the project, if you're working, depending if you have a construction component when you're an interior designer, could be a year, could be a year and a half. With staging, the timelines are significantly shorter, and you're able to do a wealth of business in a shorter period of time.
Yep, absolutely. So let's look at these survey poll results. Have you completed core home stager training? 7 people, yes, 3 no, and 3 still in training, which is great. Have you done your first home staging job? 3 people, yes, and 10 no.
And that's fine.
That's fine, absolutely.
That's why we're doing this, to help you.
There we go. And I can't figure out how to get rid of this, so. Felicia, if you can make it go away, please
I
do.
keep making it go away and somebody keeps putting it back. It's gone right now. But I do see that there are a couple more questions in the chat box.
Yeah, I'm getting to that. It's just on my screen so I can see it. So it maybe, no, I don't know if anybody else can see it. So Annie wants to know, do you buy some inventory before you start a job? So here's the thing about inventory. If that's a loaded kind of question. So if you're doing vacants, then yes, you're going to need to have some sort of inventory. So you're either going to rent inventory for that vacant, you're either going to buy your own, but most certainly you're going to need a lot of accessories and decor, because many of the rental companies don't sell everything it is that you need. And it's limited in scope. So you would definitely want to do that. Occupieds you're going to have a lot better time with. And occupieds, a lot of the time you can give your homeowner a shopping list of things that you want them to get. So you're not going to provide bedding for an occupied listing because you don't want their bedding back after people have slept in it. So you can tell them, you can show them what to get. You can even give them screenshots of photos and give it to them. Have them purchase everything, all the ancillary items that they need, anything extra to spruce up the place, so to speak. Oh, here's a good one. When you're first starting out, is it best to use moving companies to move furniture into homes, or is it best to only have your employees move items? Jacqueline, what did you do when you first started out?
I use moving companies, and I made sure that they provided a certificate of insurance. So that way, if anything was damaged in the property while they were moving things in and out, their COI covered it. And then I also, but again, I had that relationship with design because I have people that I worked with in that capacity. And if you're just starting out, you don't technically usually have employees to do it for you. So I used moving companies when I first started out. Absolutely. And I found it to be, it worked perfectly fine. And they were happy for the business because unlike being a moving company working with just individual homeowners or renters, they know this is a relationship that they're building. So not only were they more inclined to make sure they did an exceptional job each and every time, but they wanted to be able to have that repeat business. So they're also willing, depending on how much repeat business you give them, to give you a better rate than they would a one-off renter or homeowner who's moving from one house to another.
Yeah, absolutely. So the other thing to add about moving companies, they're not all created equally. Nope. So if Mayflower movers, they're going to be insured. However, if you're looking at something like two hunks in a trunk or a truck or college kids in a truck or two hunks in a trunk. Sorry, that's just a little slip. We don't want to put hunks in trunks. We definitely don't want to do that. We want the movers alive to be able to move your stuff around. So if you get two hunks in a truck, then a lot of these smaller type of companies are franchises. So they're a franchisee, and if they own the company, then technically if they're an owner operator, they're exempt from workers' comp. Let me explain what that means, because they might say, oh, we're exempt from workers' comp. And you say, bye, I'm leaving. I would never use them. Here's why. Picture this. We've got these great picture this stories. I feel like, what was her name? Was it Sophia from Golden Girls? Picture this, Italy, 1937. So picture this, 2021. You have two hunks coming in to move your inventory for you into a home, and they are owner exempt from workman's comp. You say, okay, great. They come in, they're moving a sofa into the house. They trip on the step, they fall, they break a leg. Most health insurance coverage, if they had it, is not what we call 24/7, 365 policies, which means it's going to cover you no matter what it is that you're doing. Most of them are not like that. So whenever you hurt yourself and you've had to go to the ER and they say, were you in an accident? Did you fall? Is this work related? That's so your insurance company can subrogate the claim. So once your insurance pays for something, they're going to want to get paid back to a responsible party. So if they're exempt from workman's comp, all it means is they don't legally have to have it. It still means they're going to have legal bills to pay. They're going to have medical bills to pay that they're going to be legally responsible for. And they're human. So if they rack up $25,000 because they broke a leg, what do you think they're going to do? I'm going to tell you what they're going to do, because they can't afford the workman's comp insurance. They are going to have a sue fest, and they're going to go after you, the stager, B, the real estate agent, and C, the homeowner. And then the three of y'all are going to fight it out to decide whose insurance is going to defend that claim. So you're going to, one, have to spend money defending the claim. Two, they're going to win at some point. So your name is going to be mud in the industry because you have used uninsured people. So it is very important to always ask if they are properly insured and have workman's comp. Workman's comp is going to handle injuries. General liability is going to handle if they break something, or if they move a sofa and they put, a scratch on the floor, or anything that can go wrong. So you always want to work with vendors that are absolutely fully insured, because it is a nightmare when something goes wrong. And eventually does.
And this is also the kind of information you'll cover in your training, and also the kind of information that we will cover based on the demand for certain kinds of information from all of our members as well, to make sure you're properly informed so you can make the right executive decisions when you're deciding who to partner with.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Jacquelin, one last question. Do you do occupieds and vacants or just one?
I do occupieds, but definitely more vacant, because I like being able to just come in and create a really great space and be able to just, I like the challenge of it, but I do occupied as well. But I like the challenge of creating a really great environment and then hearing the feedback after, the tours from the brokers and so forth about how well it went and the impact that it has on people. So that's just something creatively that I find I like more. And that's why I said, really think about what type of staging business you want, because there really are different directions you can go in. And you need to, especially if you're just starting out, or even if you've been doing this for a while and you're kind of feeling like, I've been doing this for 2 or 3 years and I'm not really feeling that, that excited about things, or maybe I want to take it in a different direction and pivot because I've had these experiences and I don't quite like it. Definitely take some time. Just think about what your ideal staging situation would look like, what your ideal client would look like, what a day in life for you in business would look like. And then once you have that image or that vision, then you could start actually building out and mapping out how you can achieve that for yourself, because that is really possible. And that is ultimately how you get there.
Yeah. And a lot of people, don't be afraid when you're starting out. A lot of people, they want to go really big, which is great. And if you have the resources to do it, you do you. I'm a fan of it. I'll support you all day long, but don't feel pressured to go out and to spend $50,000 on inventory and a moving truck and everything else that you're going to need. You can start out in staging doing only consultations.
Right. Yeah. And you'll make a good amount of money doing consultations.
Absolutely. You charge $300 for a consultation. You bang 2 out a day.
Yeah.
Sign me up. I mean, that's just a no-brainer. And the overhead is like fuel.
Minimal.
Fuel to get there. Email, you already have a computer. You're going to need a website and all of that. But the consultation is pretty much pure profit. So,
and if that's your business model, some people do have a consultation-based staging business. They do it in design as well, where that's the bulk of what they do. Then the overhead to actually operate your business will be minimal. So if you're starting out with a smaller, amount of capital to establish your business, that's a good way of breaking in. And it also will give you the experience of learning how to pick up on like body language and how to pick up on how do you really define like what people are looking for, and learning about your market and the different types of situations. So if that's a place where you want to start, you could definitely start there. If you want to do occupieds, just, it's, again, this is a relationships business. So that is one of the key skills that you want to try and really hone and gain your type of approach to it. You want to figure out your voice and your language and how you present yourself so it's authentic to you, because people pick up on that. But ultimately, doing consultations will help you fine tune what that will be for you. So like I said, just think about it. There are many different directions you can go in. If you have questions, we have everyone here to help you, and ultimately training options that will definitely serve you well.
Absolutely. And one last question on here is that we're going to use the contract that Judy sent and have a few addendums for Colorado. Is it okay to have Joe look over the contract? If you are part of the RESA Share program, he sure should.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like I'm like in Dr. Seuss mode, that I'm, sure should. Can we bring hunks and trunks, and the language that apparently I'm using today is just slurring it all together. So I'm just here for everyone's entertainment. You can all laugh at me. It's all good. It's all
okay,
good.
we don't take ourselves too seriously. We're
I try not
to around here.
I can't. All right, so that's wrapping it up with another episode of the Newbie webinar. Jacquelin, thank you so much for joining me again. What's funny? I'll tell you a quick story to end this. Today I was talking to Joanna before you came on. I said, I don't know, I feel like I'm having deja vu. Have we done this before?
We did it in November.
We did it in November. And I'm like, I don't even know if I ate breakfast this morning, but it's like, you know what? I remember. I said, it went so good in November. I went, we have to do this one again. And that's why you're back. So I appreciate you coming on twice now.
You're very
This was
welcome.
the last time for sure. Enjoyed it as always. And I will see you tomorrow on the board meeting. Everybody else, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy days to get some questions answered. If either one of us, any of us at RESA HQ especially, can be a service to you, please do let us know. Until next time, happy staging, everybody. Bye.